But yeah, so there was obviously a lot of talent that we saw at state and on both days, and even the playoffs too. But I don't know if there's anything you guys want to talk on, any guys specifically you want to mention. But I mean, I see Carter Harris is listed first here from Normal Community. He was a right fielder, uncommitted 2026. I know he made like a really, really good play in right field, throwing it to, was it second that he threw the runner out, trying to stretch a double.
Well,
Um,
yeah,
but yeah,
Josh
go ahead.
Holst absolutely hammered that baseball off the right field wall. And Harris, I mean, credit to Harris. He played it perfectly through a strike. And I mean, Holst was busting it out of the box. It was just one of those things. The ball was hit so hard, it got to Harris so fast off the wall. He turned, fired a absolute strike to second. And despite a valiant effort by Holst doing a little Javi Baez slide, um, they still called him out. But yeah, no, that throw was really impressive. So keep going because I didn't see all of his at bats on the weekend. But Normal Community, what, he's a 2026.
Yeah, uncommitted 2026. Really good frame too. He's like probably 6'3", probably 170, 180. But no, yeah. I mean, Dane, I saw you had some guys in here maybe that you were writing down. Is there anyone you want to touch on?
Saturday morning, saw Brody Hasquin come out of the pen, sophomore, 2027 right-hander that was sitting 79.82. Simple delivery. Also had a low 70s breaking ball. He's also starting to get some interest I've been seeing on X for football. So an interesting two sport athlete down at Triad going forward. He should be continuing to be a big arm. I think that he had like 15 games going into the weekend, so very interesting arm to watch.
No, I was just gonna say, like Triad, they make it to state. They were one of like my favorite teams I saw all year, and they're gonna lose some guys, but like there's young guys that they have kind of littered across that roster and coming up. They had a freshman arm that I know threw for them a little bit. Like they still have a bright future. But no, keep going, Dane.
Yeah, and the other name I was going to say was Daniel Coyle for St. Lawrence, 2026. Third baseman, played both games. Very gritty third baseman. I feel like he made a few different diving stops past couple days, or Friday, Saturday, I should say. Also made some impact at the plate. Just a really gritty player that I really liked. Also hopped on the mound, was 83, 84. Still uncommitted guy to watch, but I feel like he's a guy that can fill in at third, second, corner outfield. I feel like you could throw him anywhere and he could ball out.
I think you're spot on with that. And like Daniel Coyle's always been a bat to ball guy, kind of top of the order profile. One guy that stood out to me with the bat was Quinn Rooney from Bennett, left-handed arm. Like I had personally kind of known him in the winter just because he was up to 87 at our preseason All State. And he's 6'5", and it's how do you not like a lefty up to 87 that's a sophomore that's 6'5". But then you watch him swing the bat, and you're like, okay, this guy may just be as good of a hitter or better. Because there's all kinds of levers in the swing. He can leverage the baseball. It's a natural uphill, like lofted swing. And he was on the barrel a couple times when I was watching. He's a long strided runner too. Like he's just an upside left-handed hitter that I'm gonna be kind of keeping tabs on here in the next couple of years.
And then there were a few performances, Gavin, I wanted to just throw in here. I know leading into state last week, we really didn't talk about anything we saw over super sectionals and like sectional finals, but Connor Ellentenney, right-handed pitcher out of Mount Carmel, 2026, going to Notre Dame. What he did in their sectional final game against Brother Rice, it was by far the best I've ever seen Connor. Mechanically, stuff-wise, his ability to control his fastball. It was the best I've ever seen out of him. This is a guy saw last year as a sophomore, a guy that, Drew, you also saw, and it was kind of like we're wanting to bring him down to the future games, and it kind of looked like he just really didn't have a ton of confidence as a sophomore.
He's still kind of like
Watching him,
figuring some things out.
right, and watching him in their sectional final against Brother Rice, it was like a totally different guy. It was like, okay, this kid's kind of taking the next step on the mound, like zero lack of confidence. The most personality I think I've ever seen out of him on the mound. True bulldog, just, getting his team fired up. He ended like almost every inning, it felt like, with a big strikeout to get his team back, to go to the plate. So just want to shout out Connor. Brady
I want to shout
Cunningham.
out Mount Carmel with that too, because
Yeah.
the run they made again in playoffs, like super impressive. They didn't have Ian Tosi all year. Look out for them next year. But I know you were going to get into another prospect.
Yeah, no, that's a good shout out. Then I saw the super sectional game between Brother Rice and Providence Catholic. Awesome game. Brady Cunningham, I know we've talked a lot about him this year, and to me, it's just really impressive. He's only a sophomore, pitching in probably the biggest game of his life to that point. Listen, Providence Catholic comes out swinging. Those first couple innings, they get a few runs on him. The way he was able to settle down and give his team length out of on the mound and continue to go. I want to say finished maybe with 5 innings, and then they went to Jackson and Tannic, but the guts that I felt like he showed on the mound was super impressive. He definitely didn't have his best stuff, but he made it work. So I want to shout him out there. And then it was our final look at Nate O'Donnell and Enzo Infelice out of Pravi. Two guys that have just had awesome careers for the Celtics. They continued to do that in that super sectional game. Nate O'Donnell started on the mound just a couple days after, Drew, you had seen him pitch in the sectional final. Kid didn't, you couldn't tell he'd only had a few days off. And now I know in the sectional final, he only went, 2, maybe 3 innings. Whatever.
Yeah.
But the velo was the exact same as when you saw him, Drew. It's sitting low 90s, running up to 92 or 93. And Enzo Infelice, excuse me. Man, what a hitter. His first at bat, he hits a solo homer, and then nearly leaves the yard again 2 at bats later on a ball. I swear it was up at his eyes and takes a dead center. Stays in the yard. And then his last at bat almost leaves the yard poolside again. So, gonna miss watching, those two guys over at Pravi. I'm excited to see what the next level holds for those guys, whether it's pro ball or Nate's committed to go play at Minnesota, Enzo Cincinnati. So just want to shout out those two guys. I know they had awesome careers for Coach Mark Smith over there at Pravi, and it's part of, the bittersweet part of saying goodbye to this season is, we're going to not see some of these seniors anymore. So just want to shout out those two performances.
And I was going to highlight those two guys from it would have been the sectional final that I saw Providence play Lincoln Way East, and Nate O'Donnell was on the mound. Really impressive. And then Enzo, he's facing Jack Bauer. It's, everybody in the crowd, all eyes on those two guys as Enzo's stepping in the box and Jack's pounding fastballs, and Enzo squares up a 101 mile an hour fastball right back up the middle. Had a huge year for Providence. He's a guy, I know as the season progresses, just full disclosure for anybody out there, we're discussing player of the year candidates. And Enzo, with the offensive numbers he put up, it was squarely in the mix, still is. I think if Providence gets over the hump, gets to state, Enzo's squarely in the mix for player of the year. That's how impressive a year he had, because there's other guys too, when you look at two-way numbers versus what Enzo did, there's some video game numbers out there, but man, what a spring. One of the best right-handed hitters that's come through Illinois in the past handful of years for sure. I also wanted to just shout out Lincoln Way East. Before that Providence game, they're taking pregame and their infield was super crisp and they're full of sophomores. The Evan Riffs of the world, Casey Mikret, and there were some others, but really, and that's Coach John McCarthy leading that crew over there. But I was just really impressed watching the pregame infield, knowing all these guys are young sophomores getting ready for a sectional final, and the Griffins have a bright future as well. So, a couple names on here though, Gavin, that we got to see on that Friday at state.
Yeah, so Gavin Swartz, mentioning I believe it was a sectional semifinal that I saw. He threw an 85-pitch complete game, ton of strikes with his fastball, curveball, slider, changeup, and it was the best I had seen him. It was just pure dominance, ton of swing and miss, and really impressive. And then on the state semifinal game on Friday, I don't think the control was there as much, but man, he grinded it out and really kept Normal Community in that game, 2-1 game, and when they lost to Libertyville. But I think there was a couple, or I know one for sure, a bases loaded maybe 1 out or no outs that he ended up getting out of the inning without a run coming across. But just the last two performances for Schwartz here have been really impressive and really trending up. And it was just in big time games too, to see him do that. It was really, really impressive.
No, especially you see a junior stepping up in a big situation like that. And you said it, there were multiple high pressure situations where he had to make a pitch or a couple pitches, and he did so. Big kudos to him. And then you got Max Heineman on here who's, catching for Normal Community. And
Yeah,
I know you saw him a bunch.
Throughout the playoffs, he was kind of their table setter in the lineup. Like he was, I think in the sectional championship game, he had a 2-run home run that put them up over O'Fallon. Like they were down 6-4, I think, or 5-6, and he had a 2-run home run that took the lead. And then defensively, he's just been really good, throwing out a lot of runners throughout the playoffs when I've seen him. He threw out a runner on Friday night on his knees at second base. I think he's really continuing to get better behind the plate. Behind the plate, and then at the plate hitting, he's always been kind of that guy that not a ton of swing and miss. It's hard to get a ball past him. Not a ton of strikeouts. Just a very composed hitter, knows the strike zone. So Heineman's really, really impressed me, and I think defensively, if anything. But yeah, that's what I got on those two guys from Normal Community.
I was going to mention one other thing that stood out to me from state, but watching the McHenry game on Friday, they were playing Brother Rice, and the top of McHenry's order is all young guys. It's Carver Cohn's a freshman, Landon Clements is a sophomore, and Caden Wisniewski's a sophomore. And the run times that I was getting down the line on those guys were elite run times. Carver Cohn especially, I'm talking 4-1s, 4-2s. Out of all those guys, Caden Wisniewski's a right-handed hitter running a 4-2 for me down the line. Just speaks to the athleticism that they had at the top of that order, and I'm sure all the pressure that they put on teams throughout the year, with the pitching that they had. That was a dynamic group. Really, really impressive stuff out of McHenry. And they're just another program, like we mentioned it, Libertyville, they've got some young guys in the mix, Triad, young guys in the mix. McHenry's top 3 hitters are all coming back for multiple years. They've got Caden Wisniewski on the mound. Bryson Elbrecht was good for them. So it'll be fun to see what McHenry does moving forward.
And I was thinking Trey Cole. I saw him last week at the Super Sectional against Triad for Champaign Central. Came out of the pen and was throwing 88-90, topping out at 91. Also mixed in a mid-70s slider. Looked easy, looked really good. Short little stint, but just have to shout him out real quick before we move on to the next section.
Yeah, well, I think today is we're lucky to have Coach Thompson at Libertyville and Coach Lotus from St. Lawrence on today. Just doing a quick interview with them after their state championships. So that we'll kind of transition into that. So appreciate those coaches hopping on. And congratulations to them for winning the state in their respective classes.
And one cool thing is both those schools won their first state titles for their programs. So I find that a little extra special here in 2025. Libertyville hoisting it for the first time, as well as St. Lawrence. And I know St. Lawrence has, been a program in the mix for a number of years.